Today I have trapped one of the greatest Magic players of all time, Jon Finkel, or Johnny Magic, to coach me on how to play combo with modern Ruby Storm versus a tough matchup of Dimir Shadow with ample counterspells and removal. For today's session, I won game 1 pretty easily by storming off, so we will be focusing on game 2 and 3 instead. Let's see what happens. Yeah, this is my first 7, and one thing I kind of realized playing Storm this round is that I kind of just keep a lot of hands. As long as Ruby Medallion or Ral, and then some sort of impulse effect, I'm generally pretty happy. But
So I agree with that, except for I mulligan a lot of hands, although any of the hands you just described are hands I would keep. I think this is an easy keep.
yes.
But I think you have to mulligan one land hands a lot. I think the deck mulligans reasonably well.
Is there anything else you're thinking about as you're looking at this hand?
No, I mean, to me, look at this hand. You're gonna get a Surveil Land turn 1.
Yes.
Turn 2, you're just gonna cast the Ruby Amulet. You're not gonna ritual or anything crazy. And then turn 3, you're gonna cast the Glimpse the Impossible or whatever. And then we'll see what happens. I mean, this is of course assuming that they don't do anything. I'm not gonna try to get crazy with a turn 2 ritual. Ruby ritual glimpse. I could imagine some matchups or something, but
yeah. So they start with a bauble, and then they bauble us. So what information are you gleaning from this when they bauble us?
I mean, I don't know. They're probably playing some sort of delirium or prowess or getting a bunch of cards graveyard deck.
Yeah, so they're starting off with preordained, which means they probably don't have any of the discard effects, I'm assuming. Let's see what they kept real quick. They kept a 6.
Yeah.
So looking pretty good so far. Look at our turn. They draw. Ren's Resolve. Nice. So as you said, this is going to find us the land, and let's see what they do.
If they tap out, I could maybe try to go for on turn 2. But, all right, so Thoughtseize us, unfortunately.
I wonder if they held on to that Thoughtseize, expecting that we can't play the Medallion turn 1.
I mean, maybe if they need a second land or something else, but, well, I guess that's actually sort of fun. I mean, but if they're a deck that plays Psychic Frog, I feel like they'd be much more inclined to just play turn 1,
right?
Chance of drawing it. They also played that Soporific Springs untapped for what it's worth, so that's
it's very telling what they're There's some sort of one blue interaction they have for us. Yeah. So the ritual here, I think we pitch it because we have 2 rituals.
Yeah,
all right,
this is an easy yard. We're basically just trying to find a mana reducing effect.
We're trying to find a what?
A mana reducer. So either Medallion or Raw.
And then we'll draw here. Because they have the 1 blue open, I assume we just don't want to just jam any of these Ren's Resolves. But we do.
I would 100% jam a Ren's Resolve here. I definitely want to use my mana.
Good thing I did it.
To have a 1 blue counter spell. Sure, that's gonna be really freaking annoying for me. Let's get it out. My hand is sort of it's a little clumped with cards that aren't that easy to play. And I can just play this and then untap and do it next turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the idea is just that we want to just take all the cards out of their hand, anyways.
Yeah, I mean it's just what else am I gonna do with my 2 mana? I have nothing else useful to do, and if this is target player discards Spell Snare, I'm glad because I got another Ren's Resolve and a Glimpse.
Makes sense. All right.
And Spell Snare is pretty premium here because it only costs 1 blue, so it makes their life a lot easier if they can just keep that in their hand.
They play an island, they play Psychic Frog, and then pass, leaving 1 blue open. We draw.
This is pretty annoying now.
Yeah.
What are we drawing here?
A Reckless Impulse.
So okay. I might have done something different. I would want to think about it. There's a chance that I want to cast Ritual into a Resolve here.
And why is that?
Well, it gives me 2 more shots to hit a 2 mana guy when it's going to start to get a lot worse for me when they untap with that Psychic Frog.
Yeah.
If I miss or whatever, then I just play a land and tap the other red and cast the other Reckless Resolve for next turn. There's a reasonable chance I go land or something off of the first one, which is why I would not have played land here.
I see.
I think I would do that because I'm just trying to convert some of the stuff. I got a lot of card draw and things set myself up. I want to convert that into seeing what's going to become faster. So I would have, before playing the land, I would have ritualed into whatever, Ren's Resolve, Reckless Impulse. And then the most likely thing to happen when I would have played a land either from the Impulse or from my hand and then cast another Reckless Impulse, and then I'll see what happens next turn. Maybe I get lucky and I get a Raul or a Ruby Medallion. I mean, maybe they have another Spell Snare. I don't know. But I would have taken a little bit more of the risk because I feel like this game's about to start going kind of a little bit downhill from us.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like trying to draw to my things. I need to draw like one card a turn.
Right. So we're trying to set up as many cards as we can to make it difficult for them so that they can't answer us efficiently.
Let's see.
So I just played Resolve.
Resolve.
When, like you said, there's a Arid Mesa right there.
Right. So what would have happened in my instance is I would have played the Arid Mesa from the Exile Zone. Mm-hmm. And then I would cast that second Ren's Resolve. And whatever, you'd be 2 cards deeper, you're minus Poetic Ritual in your hand. I mean,
yeah, so the thinking is just that we want to see more cards just to like get us closer to winning immediately sooner.
Like I think that if I get one of my 7 remaining 2 mana reducers, like really, really ups my chances of winning.
Right.
I said like the bad results weren't that bad. Like I was probably gonna get a land or something else to play off of it. And even if I get nothing useful, I can still play my land out of my hand and cast the other one.
Yeah, okay. So I guess one world could have been like we Pyretic Ritual and then Ren's Resolve and then had 2 mana open for like a Ruby Medallion or something that they might not have an answer for.
Right. I mean, whatever. I'm playing for my 2 out of 48, my 5% chance of getting, or 4% chance of getting lucky. But like my unlucky scenarios aren't even really that bad. Like here, you just play out that Arid Mesa and you Ren's Resolve again, and you kind of like whatever, use the Pyretic Ritual and your other Resolve, and you play the land, and then you'd be 2 cards deeper for next turn.
Makes sense. So, yeah, this is starting to get much more difficult now that they have a threat, and then they have all their mana up.
Yeah, because now it feels like it's going to be getting a little bit rough here. But
So, how would you beat this position? Like, what game plan are you thinking about to beat this position?
I mean, they only have 2 cards in their hand, so they could have 0 counter spells. They could have 1. I mean, I think I'm mostly just trying to cycle through as many cards as possible. I basically only have 7 cards that are really relevant right now, which are the mana reducers, right? I mean, yeah, you can theoretically with Old Storm, you could do it a little bit more with ritualing without a mana reducer into Past and Flames and stuff, but not with this one here.
All right, let's see what we get. I think this game might make a catastrophic misplay, so I'm very excited to show you. All right, let's see what we draw. We draw Ruby Medallion. Okay. Right, so obviously we're playing the Arid Mesa first, and then...
Yeah, I would play the Arid Mesa first.
And then some options are...
I'm just casting a Ruby Medallion. They showed me they got 2 cards in their hand. Like, yeah, they had some draws. They had a Spell Snare. But, like... It'll probably get countered, but I'm not gonna like get around whatever their counter spell mana at this point. Like, I want to
just keep pushing them.
I mean, I get a chance where if they don't have it, we probably just win the game right here. And there's 1 in 4 chance that they don't have anything.
Okay, so I ended up playing Ren's Resolve because I'm thinking I was trying to bait out a more interaction or see more cards to eat more of their hand.
I mean, I just don't think they're gonna really counter that here.
Yeah.
I mean, here I probably just cast the Ruby Medallion again. I mean, I don't know, like.
Yeah, looking back at this from this position, I probably would just jam Ruby Medallion because even if we fail, we have like all these other impulse cards and rituals to keep going to dig for something.
I mean, it's also like next turn, it's like you're it's like you kind of like if you cast Ruby Medallion next turn and then they counter it, then you can't play your Desperate Ritual and your Wish or something. But I mean, like.
Yeah.
So it makes that worse as well. But again, now they're drawing 2 cards a turn. So I feel like I'm not sort of trying to get...
It's a drink break. Yeah, they're drawing 2 cards a turn.
Right. Here, I feel like they're drawing 2 cards a turn. Like, I'm just not trying to, like, get fancy or do whatever. And plus, I feel like my hand is, like, I'm suffocating with, like, stuff that, like, has some value. But, like, I just want to get any value out of it I can.
Got it. So they hit us, drew a card, and then presumably they're going to pass here.
It's like they were a little bit stifled on cards, and we were a little bit stifled on land. So I really did not want to have any turns going where I'm like, my mana's untapped.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't even think about that. All right, so now it's time to jam.
All right, yeah. Yeah, I would have cast the first Ruby Medallion first. But if they countered that, I would have Ritual before I played my second one. So
if they countered that, you would Ritual before you play the second one. Okay.
So I could keep on and have another Ritual or whatever.
So here's a Drown the Lock spell, gets countered. And then I play the second one.
Okay.
And the second counter spell.
All right.
I mean, as we described earlier, they might have only had one counter spell in the last turn cycle, right? And then if we drew,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and honestly, if you played it, if you played it my way, the way it played out, you would have the turn before this with a ritual. You could have played 2 ruby medallions.
yeah,
I mean, that's how it played out. I'm not necessarily saying, but because you would have been 2 cards deeper. Yeah. I mean, now I feel like we're just in like a whole world of agony, and it's getting very very difficult.
yeah, a force of negation.
So they probably do even have even more counters. Like if they're willing to use a counter, like your draw 2, sort of makes me think that they're
Yeah, this is a spell. What is it? It's a force spike, but if your creature's big enough, it
yeah
counters the spell.
yeah
So now we have spell bomb, and then that's really bad.
yeah.
So I think we lost this particular game because we didn't jam the spell at that one turn.
Well, I mean, who knows? With that in their hand, it would have been a totally different game. I mean, the way the cards played out, you had like 2 ruby medallions. You had gotten 2 of them on turn 3 with a ritual. I'm not even 100% sure that the stuff I've said is right. Like I think it is, but I wouldn't want you to overlearn from like the specific way this game played out.
Yeah, but I do agree that like I think what's interesting about what you said is like that one cycle where they had only 2 spells was actually the best time for us to just make them have it, right? Because then, as you said, they go up to 4 cards. We're never beating them afterwards. After 4,
Right. Yeah, you're really lucky to beat their drawing 2 when you only have 1. And plus, you have so many card draw spells in your hand, you just got to cash them in. And
so here's a glimpse. Here's another stubborn denial, and then I just conceded here because they had lethal.
yeah, it's like a Metamorphosis all time a storm because I'm like I don't know, like I draw to like one of my mana reducers or a Pyromancer's Ascension or something. It's like I have all these cards. There'll be other cards in the future, but sometimes I want to see what they are now and have access to them.
Yeah, so there's slightly more emphasis on just like digging through your deck to like get to the thing, like the important cards.
Especially because your card draw kind of sucks. It's a little clunky, especially when you don't have your mana reducer in play. So like if I'm not doing something turn 2 or 3, like I am just definitely trying to cast Ren's impulses recklessly
Yeah.
or the other way around.
If you like this video, please support my Patreon to keep funding more coaches to be a part of the series. This episode comes with a written summary for what learnings I had from the session, with additional thoughts. So if that interests you, please support. So here we're on the play. I brought in a static prison, which I don't know if that was a good idea.
Is this to like deal with their psychic frog?
This was to deal with a psychic frog.
Yeah, I generally don't like that train of thought at all.
And why is that?
Because like you're trying to beat them by like getting some spells past them at the right point or something else. Like it's like I don't know, they want to tap 2 mana to catch their psychic frog. Sometimes the games like go a little bit, so like I put it out there and it like removes it for 2, and it really does like it's like I want to be able to freaking go for it as often as possible. If like I feel like I've got enough mana, or if they try to do something, like I just don't think that like I'm winning the game by like eliminating. Sure, like it's a problematic creature to have in play, obviously, because it's drawing them more cards, but it's gonna draw 1 or 2 cards over the course of a game or something, like before you're sort of screwed over anyway.
Right.
So I generally don't like. I think people historically used to always think about a tendency to over sideboard and storm.
Yeah.
I haven't played enough of this format's deck to know, but I would not be surprised if it's still true.
Yeah.
But anyway, this seems like a decent opener.
Yeah, I feel like this is pretty good. We have our medallions, we have our cyclers and / ritual. Yeah. So all we need to do is just hit like a Past in Flames or a Wish, and we're in a pretty good spot. They multi to 5. So here's where the catastrophic misplay is.
Okay.
So here we'll just start with the Mountain Pass. Let's see what they do. Whoa, that was too fast. That was too fast.
No, that was fine. Well, they seized.
Yeah, which is still fine. Here's a relay. So my plan now is to set up a relay. I was thinking that since they're tapped out, I could just flip over a lot of cards and then try and overwhelm them this way.
Well, I like cycling the Metamorphoses, so I'm happy to start by cycling your 2 Metamorphoses, and then I can decide if I want to cast that relay or not.
Yeah. So here, I didn't know how hard I wanted to commit, because if we want to relay, we can cast one of these rituals and leave another one for later.
I would. This is not a situation I found myself in very often, but my impulse is actually to just cast 1 ritual and then Galvanic Relay, because like you're not going to win that turn.
Yeah.
You should always cast a Paretic Ritual, by the way, because like there's some chance that you could splice your Desperate Ritual.
Good to know. So let's see what we flip over. We flip over the Glimpse and Manamorphose and a Pyretic Ritual.
Can we play the land off of that or only spells?
Let me see. You play that card, so you can play the land.
So sure, yeah. I mean, we got 4 cards. We can actually cast them all next turn.
Yeah. Land pass. We'll draw. And here's where I screw up.
Is this where you like lead with like, okay.
Yeah, you can imagine where this is gonna go. I lead with. Well, what would you lead with here?
So I actually don't think it matters that much, as it turns out. I would lead with the Manamorphose just because, like, but I think Manamorphose or Pyretic Ritual are functionally the same.
Right.
Yeah, I would just do it to see the extra card, but I think that there's probably like literally no difference between those two.
They're gonna counter whatever we play anyways.
Whatever. They counter either one of them, and then your cards, you can't cast them. All right.
Yeah. So that's what happened. All right. The way I remembered it, I thought my order would have mattered. I thought if I played the Manamorphose.
No. I don't think order matters there. Shouldn't matter.
So here we crack the Wooded Foothills, Parlors, see an extra card, Mace pitch it, because we have enough land, clearly, and then we'll draw.
So like right now, it's like we're looking at that freaking Static Prisoner, and I don't know what came out for it, but if it was a card that did something, it could be making a difference.
I think I cut for this particular game. I generally don't cut a lot of cards, because like Storm, you can't cut that many. But I think I cut, what is it? The 1 mana Treasure Maker.
Yeah, I mean, those aren't the worst to cut in these sorts of matchups.
Yeah.
If that was a right of whatever, then it doesn't really make a difference.
All right, let's see what they do.
9 life. Jesus.
Yeah.
They Thoughtseize. They
played the
land on tap. They played another land on tap.
Yeah. Surveil, there's a Ral. So here, we don't want to play the Ral, I assume, because they're just like representing so much interaction.
Yeah, I think that's fine. There's no real benefit to playing the Raw. You got a decent amount of mana.
Yeah.
Like even just playing it on turn where you could theoretically do something useful if it resolved. But now you're opening yourself up to like sorcery removal spell or just other stuff or even instant. I mean, like.
Yeah. So I was thinking that this is like kind of like the burn thing I was talking about, where right now we have more mana than them, so it's like we can hold on to these cards and like find a better window to ram the spell through.
Yeah,
because they're not hitting their land, so we can sculpt, and they're not killing us as long as the frog is not. And as soon as they tap down their frog, we're kind of good. So here I think Resolve's pretty good, just to see some cards and pressure them.
I just guessed Seren's Resolve. I mean, whatever, play it next turn.
Ooh. And here's a medallion, and then the other gemstone. Right. Yep, here's a counter spell.
Now, hold on. Now, here I might be inclined to cast the Raw.
Yeah, here's where we should cast the Raw. Do it.
Yeah,
Do
I would probably cast the Raw there, just because, I mean, still counter spells are their biggest potential problem. And okay, yeah, they could have the 1 mana counter spell, but that's gonna be a problem, no matter what.
But that's a much more narrow counter spell, like a much more niche situation.
Yeah, so I mean, I think right there, it's like once you cast everything down, they counter it. Like, all right, try to cast the Raw. Like maybe, like you didn't get past counters, and you can't just play around everything.
Yeah.
And now here, if that thing was like that, right of whatever, despite the fact you would have cast it already once, you could almost flip your Raw.
Yeah.
You get the double action. Right.
So here's a Thoughtseize, and it's pretty interesting. They take the Static Prison, actually.
Okay. All right, look at that. Did more than the
Rite of Flame. Yeah, it ate the Thoughtseize and got our boy in.
I mean, it's kind of scary that they didn't take that Raw.
Yeah, I'm assuming they just have like fatal pushes out the butt.
Yeah, I would just run a Reckless Impulse. You know?
Yeah, I agree. We should have played Reckless Impulse. So one of the things that they just started scolding. So Ravel's going to kind of get countered at some point, but
yeah, there's no reason to put it into them like that. Like obviously they're not scared of Raw right there, so let's like wait until we can like do that in something else or whatever.
Yeah. So the learning from this particular turn cycle that I remember is like they took the Static Prison, right? Which means that they have a frog they really want to put down, which means they were going to tax themselves at some point, like right now or something, to play the frog. And here's where we play like Ral Ren, because then they won't be able to counter everything, right? So that's what I was thinking. We'll draw.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you cast a turn, I would have cast it though, which I do think was correct. I mean, it would have gone Stern Scolding, which might have done or whatever.
But still, yeah, I think I agree that was a better time to cast it. I'm finding how passive I am when I'm rewatching this game. It always
Yeah.
happens though.
Yeah, I think people are too afraid of losing a lot of times. So, like, I was like, look, it's totally fine if your answer to like, what if they sideboard in this card is I just lose. But like, it's always fine. Like, you're not playing not to lose or whatever. You're playing to the highest probability of winning.
Yeah, especially this kind of deck.
Yeah.
All right, so not really hitting anything,
Yeah.
and then they're in a much
We're in real trouble now.
yeah.
I mean, it seems like a quite difficult deck with Thoughtseize and counter spells and a bunch of 1-mana counter spells, and then like the Psychic Frog.
Yeah, the frog is really good. So my thought here is that we play Ral.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah, and then if they try and fatal push it, flip the Ral of the rituals.
Yeah, although you only flip Raw on your turn, so like presumably you're not going to be able to get around fatal push with the instance.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
If you lose the flip, I guess he would just hit him anyways.
But yeah, you only flip it. I actually was not aware of this until like a few days before the Pro Tour. LSV said that. I was like, wait, really?
You only flip it on your turn?
Yeah.
Why?
Like, I don't know if you can zoom in on it, but
yes.
But yes, that is the case.
Whenever you cast, if you win the flip, if you do, return it under thing instead. During your turns, right? The very top. Yeah, it's buried in that paragraph. So the Ral got spell snared, and then I don't know why I played
Yeah, I'm not getting that.
But here's a Ren's Resolve.
Yeah, I probably led with the Ren's Resolve, by the way.
Oh, it's just this.
I don't know, like, let's just see what it is. You know, I'm going to be forced to cast a card from there. Like, I have enough mana with my rituals. I'll just take into the extra information first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It doesn't really, whatever. I'll assume that they counter it the same way they countered it there if we do it in the other order.
But that's like better sequencing. That's another thing I've been like trying to focus on is I often don't sequence well enough where I give away a lot of information.
You kind of get into the habit of like, we play the mana reducer first, and that's usually the right thing. But when you have out 6 mana, all right.
So here, do we just jam the passive flame?
Yes. Of course, you splice your no, you got splice.
Okay, yeah.
It's that bad boy.
I'll remember that for the future. Next time I have both of them.
I knew when I saw you cast the Desperate over the Paretic Ritual.
I did not respect the splice.
Yeah. It came up more often in the Old Storm decks than it does here. Like every time it comes up here, it almost seems to not matter.
Yeah, there's a Drowned Lock.
Yeah.
And then the game's over.
The other way, and that was all your mana, right?
Yep.
All right. So even if you do it my way, you have 1 more mana, but it doesn't do anything.
I think for me, the learning from watching this is like a couple of different things, like focusing on digging or like cycling through our cards and going deeper into our deck faster and being more aggressive with like just playing things.
Yeah, I mean, look, so look, generally I think you want to cycle through, and historically I've always thought that people were like just not willing enough to just like cycle through their cantrips or whatever. I think that that's pretty important. It's not that you're always trying to be more aggressive, although based on this, I suspect that your bias is to being significantly less aggressive than I am.
Yeah.
Like it is very contextual. So it's things where like I don't want to like have my mana just sitting there worthless. So it's also like you've had a lot of hands where you've had a decent amount of like card draw and not that much of a mana reducers or whatnot. But yeah, I mean like you can't just play in fear of what they might have. Because first of all, like none of your important spells are really that high commitment. It's like if they countered a Rui Medallion, like all right, it's not like you like went like 4 rituals and they countered your Past the Flames or whatever.
Yeah.
Because once you have the Rui Medallion, I think you can probably flash back that Past the Flames as well. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of like minor-ish decisions that I feel like we would have made differently. I mean, the thing I liked about Storm is that it's like just it's about making like a lot of like marginal decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
And each of them have like a small impact on your win percentage. You don't really know for each one what they are or not, if you're doing the right one or not. But you try to do your best and you try to like learn from experience in the context. And I do think that those sorts of small decisions over time can add up. It sort of goes back to like a sort of the way Magic used to be a little bit more when cards were a little bit less powerful. I mean, outside of course, like the insanely broken mistake cards.
Yeah. I think the other interesting thing you talked about that I've not really thought about that often was that specific moment earlier when I think we were stuck on lands and they had like more cards. And I think your framing of like their cards versus our mana was like very interesting.
Yeah. Like I think it was like we had like 4 lands and like 5 cards. So they had like 3 lands and 2 cards or something. or maybe we each had one more land, but yeah, and like 3 of our cards were like card draw spells. I'm like, I don't want to be saying go with mana untapped if I can like do anything that's gonna like impact. This could be at all relevant. I would say impact the board. I mean, not actually impacting the board, but you're just getting deeper into whatever cards you need.
Yeah, I don't really think about mana efficiency as much in Storm, but it seems like that was like a thing that I should also be considering more, is because like the way I think about it is I want to generally in my mind I want to hold the cards for like a better time, right? Like it's to me it's like storm comboing, it's like picking a window and like setting myself up to that window to win the game. But then what you brought up a lot of times was like, well, we're not passing the turn and not spending our mana because that's just like kind of a waste, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, certainly in cases like that where they're building sort of like a counter-heavy deck and they don't have a ton of lands, waiting generally, such as really early turns, is I think usually not optimal.
Yeah. You're just jamming your cards and making them have it until like the wall breaks, right? Until eventually some point they just like not have the right answer anymore and then you just break through. One of my friends had one question specifically for you, and I think we can call it good. He wanted me to ask you, what to you makes like a really good player versus a very mediocre player? I don't know if that's like easily like what's like the one key trait? Let's say that. Simplify it.
That's a good question. I mean, like, so I haven't thought about it and never been able to really answer a question when I was younger. I think the skill that I actually have. Look, I'm smart. A lot of Magic players are really smart. Like, I'm certainly like not particularly smarter than the other top Magic players. But I mean, like, it's not anything like that. I oddly enough, I think I have like very good cognitive empathy, which means that like it's just natural to me. And it sort of like it didn't even occur to me that it wasn't like for other people. Where like I can just see a problem or situation from like all of the kind of sides at once and these other weird angles and sort of like evaluate. It's like it's very easy for me to be in the other person's shoes and in the shoes of like this and that and that. I think that's there. I mean, I don't know much of it's cause and effect, but there definitely seems to be like some like humility. I mean, there's a lot of players that are sort of like kind of good but not great region. Maybe they top 8 at Grand Prix or 2, even won one or something. Maybe they lucked into a PT top 8 or whatever. I don't know. These people seem like way more certain that what they're doing is right, or I listen to them talk. And when I talk to like Kai or whatever, I'm like, man, I don't freaking know. He's like, I don't really know either. He's like, I guess this. We'll call over like LSV. Like, yeah, like maybe this. I don't even know if that's the right answer. Like that's how we're talking. But I mean,
Yeah.
I mean that doesn't really answer your question.
I think it does because like I think humility is a very interesting idea in terms of this subject of like what makes like a great player, right? Because having humility and being able to like be open to ask questions and just kind of go off very simple assumptions exposes you to more lines versus someone who might be more certain, right? Like they've done the one thing, this is the one thing they're going to do, and that's the answer to everything. And perhaps humility is the thing that keeps a player flexible and answers more questions.
There's a lot of times when you're like 80% sure. The question is, well, when you're 80% sure, you're like, I'm right, or like, I might be wrong. I bet you what a bunch of other people think or whatever. And when you're 80% sure, well, you're going to be, well, let's just pretend that you nailed it. You're going to be wrong 1 in 5 times, right? Like that's a lot. And the other way around, when you're like, man, like that has to suck. I mean, in the team dynamics, especially later, I thought I was even better, more like I don't really come up with like the new decks as much, but I thought I was quite good at synthesizing what all these other really smart people around me who'd maybe played the formats more were saying. And just like from it, I think I did pretty good jobs overall. I mean, maybe not this last Pro Tour, although my record in testing against very good players was like the best I've ever had with the Storm deck. Like
I read that, yeah.
It was, but then, but yeah, I mean, just synthesizing all these other people are doing and sort of being like, okay, well, like I have to listen to this and that, and I think this is it here. And then maybe make like 1 or 2 small changes around the edges or whatever. Like I have some of the trader's mentality. Like I'm able to, I guess, do a good job of synthesizing what everyone else is putting out there. And I'm, I guess, good at just sort of judging all those relatively. And there's a way that like it's kind of like that, but kind of like this. And then, I don't know, I make my best guess and I hope.
That's all you can do, right? Really? Just make your best guess and hope. And hope it works out.
Exactly.
For next week, under the box is a boba with half sugar and half ice. You won't be able to guess who we're learning from. If you want more coaching, here's Andrea Mengucci teaching me how to maximize value through tempo decks. Or check out how Misplaced Ginger breaks down complex board states with mid-range decks right here. And remember to always splice that bad boy.